Hello, I'm Jenna. I'm the Consultant Clinical Psychologist in Salford Learning Disability Team, and in part 2 I'm going to be talking about what is included in the Friendship Workbook. You might find it useful to have the workbook printed in front of you whilst you watch the video. So what does the workbook include? There are sections for people in my life, roles, friends, social skills, self-esteem, assertiveness, boundaries, safety, experiencing loss and goals. Each section can be completed at different times. You might choose to do 1 or 2 sections and then come back to it. You might choose to do the sections in a different order to the workbook. For example, if someone is really struggling with boundaries or safety, you might choose to start with these sections first. For the first activity, we want you to support the person to think about who is currently in their life. This might include family members, friends, support staff, or people in the community. When completing this, think about if they have included any friends or who they consider to be friends. In this next role section of the workbook, we cover the qualities of a good friend and why having friends is important. We also cover the differences between a friend, a person you just know as a doctor or a teacher, and a stranger, such as someone you pass on the street. To help you support the person to understand the differences, we've included some questions where we describe different scenarios and ask the person to identify whether the person in the scenario is a friend, a person they know, or a stranger. The next section is on friendships. In this section, we hope that you can support the person to think about any friends they currently have, why they like their friends, what they like doing with their friends, and why their friends like them. Not every adult with a learning disability will have friends, and in this section, we talk about why having a learning disability might mean that making and keeping friends is more challenging, and what you can do as a carer to help the person to cope with these challenges. We hope that this section also helps you to support the person to think about what they do now to make and keep friends and what they could do in the future. In this activity, you might support the person to think about examples, such as introducing themselves, asking people questions, and making plans to meet up with their friends. In order to make and keep friends, it is important that people have some understanding of social skills. In this section of the workbook, we've included some activities to learn about personal space, touch, facial expressions, and joining a group. As a carer, you can support the person to understand how close or how far away to sit and stand next to different people, and how sitting too close to people can make them feel uncomfortable. In the use of touch activity, you can help the person to think about when it's okay to touch people and in what way. For example, it's helpful to know that hugging a friend when they're upset is okay, but hugging someone they've never met before would be inappropriate. For people with learning disabilities, it can sometimes be difficult to understand expressions, and so we've also included an activity you can use to support them with understanding what different emotions can look like. For example, knowing that a smile means someone might be happy. In this section, we cover what self-esteem is and how different things can impact self-esteem. For example, it might be helpful to explain to the person that experiences such as bullying can make people feel sad and can impact their self-esteem. Having low self-esteem can have a big impact on friendships and make it harder to make and keep friends. Positive experiences such as praise for doing something good can improve people's self-esteem. That is why in this section we want you to help the person practice giving and receiving compliments. If they are struggling to think of any compliments, you could write a few down and ask them to choose one. In this section, we talk about what being assertive means and the differences between being assertive, passive and aggressive. It's important that people with learning disabilities have the opportunity to learn the skills to say no to people and ask for what they want in a way that is appropriate and respectful. To help adults with learning disabilities to know and practice how to be assertive in different scenarios, we have included a role play activity. For this activity, we hope that you can get into character and support the person you work with to be assertive in each of the scenarios given. If the person's answer isn't assertive, then you can use the assertive, passive and aggressive page to help you to discuss how they could respond in an assertive way. Use the pages to make a note or a script so they can revisit what to do in the future. In this section, we focus on looking at boundaries. As a carer, you can help the people you support to understand what a healthy and unhealthy boundary is, and how boundaries differ depending on if someone is a relative, a friend, a person you know, a staff member or a stranger. Having boundaries is helpful to keep safe and to make sure you feel comfortable with what is happening. However, sometimes boundaries are crossed, so it's important for people with learning disabilities to know what to do when this happens. For example, you might talk to the person about who they can go to when this happens, what they can say, and whether they can walk away from the scenario. In the safety section, we talk about what to do when someone comes to the door and what to do if you don't know who they are. We also talk about how to keep safe when you're out and about, including what you need to take with you, such as your phone, and how to keep yourself safe from strangers. Finally, we briefly cover how people can keep safe online, including not giving money to strangers, the dangers of people pretending to be someone else, and what to do if they are feeling worried. We know that a lot of people with learning disabilities experience a number of losses throughout their lives. They often go to school with friends they don't see again, have carers who move on to other roles, move house, and might experience someone they love dying. It is important that the people we work with know it's okay to feel all different types of emotions when this happens. We also want to make sure that they know how they can help themselves when this happens. And so in this booklet, we've included suggestions on how some people cope with loss and provided you with a space to think about other things that will help that person. After completing this workbook, we'd like you to create 3 goals with the person to make sure all the hard work you've both put in is put into action. Together, you can think about what could be most helpful for the person to work on and how you can help them to work on this. Make sure you come up with a time to revisit these goals and see how far they've come. Thanks for supporting the completion of this workbook, and we hope you find it helpful.